Hello and welcome to GC360. I'm Justin Peacock.
And I'm Taylor Weldon. Thanks for joining us. Our top story, the most recent Times Talk, was the venue to discuss the Yik Yak incident, what students are saying about the posting of anonymous racist posts on campus.
Plus, our New Well visiting scholars amping it up with an art show that has people talking, and that's the point.
And we'll wash it down later with a member of our team who makes his wine at home. All this and more right now on GC360. Over a week has passed since the Yik Yak uproar brought attention to anonymous racist comments aimed at community school children who are visiting the Georgia College campus. The GC administration is particularly concerned. Vice President of Student Affairs Bruce Harshbarger explains why.
But if you're operating in an environment where you're in the minority, you're hearing this day after day, and it's a weight you carry around. That weight gets to be an elephant you're carrying around.
A Times Talk provided students with an outlet to express themselves about the Yik Yak incident. Our reporter Betsy Lamb has that story.
Last Wednesday, 200 students, faculty, and staff showed up for the Times Talk, ready to have an open conversation about the changes that need to take place in order to make the campus a safe place for all students.
So here's what I'd like to ask you to do. If you're willing to be respectful in your interactions with each other today.
This conversation presented many different emotions among students, including frustration and anger, as well as encouragement and excitement.
I'm actually excited about this opportunity because there's a lot of people that don't believe that we have these types of behavior on campus, that we don't have people that have these racist opinions about all this. And I think this here is a very recent active event that shows that some people actually do feel this way.
Students were anxious to let their opinions be heard.
Talk about, you've seen it, we've all seen it, we're talking about it. Let's just go ahead and not even look at the app anymore, but let's keep talking about it and other ways to kind of move forward in the discussion. And I think that's a good way to show that not only are we moving in the right direction, but we don't care about the Yik Yak app and whoever it was that posted those terrible and hateful messages. So I think that's one way we can easily put on a flyer.
Steps are already being taken towards initiating change on the Georgia College campus through a number of outlets.
Institutional equity and diversity are going to take out a full-page ad in the next colonnade that comes out. It will be after spring break. There's an online site that they can go to, anyone on campus can go to put their name to that statement. And I would like to have, the two-paragraph statement and as many names as we can possibly. I would like to actually buy two facing full pages to hold all the names that follow the statement.
I'm very happy to see that we're finally having this conversation.
For GC360 News, I'm Betsy Lamb.
Here's a statistic that may make you pause. Authorities say forced entry and burglary in Milledgeville were up 3% last year. 97 cases were reported. Our reporter Emil Hellerud met GC student Kate Fetterman and found out what it's like when this kind of nightmare becomes a reality.
It was January 2013. Someone was lurking in the shadows, waiting for Kate Fetterman to come home. All of the outside light bulbs were unscrewed from the sockets. It was pitch black. The stalker allowed her to get inside. That's how he liked to do it. He would come back 2 or 3 times a week for a month.
I remember he would specifically come on Sundays and then sometimes just random days, whatever it was. But I'm in Kappa Delta, and so when we would have chapter on Sundays, I used to be president when this was happening, and I would come home at like 9 or 10 at night after our chapter was finished, and the light would be off, so he would know that's what I was doing and that I would be home right around that time.
He didn't come for their things. Nothing was ever missing. He had come for Kate and her roommates. He would wait until they were home for around 15 minutes before banging on the door or looking through the windows.
It was terrifying. to not be able to come into your house and feel safe, especially when you don't have family here that's able to protect you, kind of give you guidance, is really hard. I would sleep at my friends' houses all the time, and not being able to come back to your house at night that's ridiculous. Like, you should always feel safe in the place that you live. So it was the scariest thing, one of the scariest things I've ever been through, for sure.
Typically, the young women would call for help and the stalker would run away, always using the same escape route, the darkest way. The Georgia College police set up cameras and jogged around the area. They were everywhere, so he eventually stopped coming, but he may still be out there.
The thing is, you never know. I mean, you go all year without having a single thing, and then you're that one person, you end up being that statistic. So the better prepared you are, wherever you are, the better chance you have to face the challenge.
Oh my gosh, it's changed so much. I sleep with a knife by my bed, so that's not normal. And I don't like coming home when it's dark out at all. I always have somebody walk me home.
But Kate is prepared now. Another guy started to look through her windows some months ago. One day, Kate heard what sounded like the intruder forcing himself through the door to get in. She barricaded herself in a bathroom, and she doesn't know if he actually got inside that day, but that's also the day he was arrested. Self-defense courses also have made her feel safer for now. She knows how to handle a situation. Reporting for GC360, this is Emil Hellerud.
A certain campus organization proclaims healing for the sick, but what does something like that entail? Reporter Mackie Davis takes us inside a beautiful night of faith and worship to reveal the workings behind the GC group known as Cure GC.
I'm standing outside of GC Cure's Night of Worship with Joe Kissick, and it is a cause very near and dear to my heart, so we're going to go in and take a little look. On Wednesday, March 5th, Cure GC came together to celebrate a night of worship led by their own Jordan Mims. The event featured prayer, music, and a video reflection of the children that Cure GC supports through fundraising and donations. The Cure Kids, as they are known by, have been diagnosed with diseases like cleft lip, hydrocephalus, and spina bifida. In addition, former executive vice president of Sony Pictures and author of the novel The Fourth Fisherman, Joe Kissick was the featured speaker of the event, where he spoke about his past and the importance of faith and service in our lives.
I had made it, but there was something missing in my life, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I had all this success, material success. I had a position of authority with a major company, a major movie studio, and yet I was empty on the inside. The stories of these children are stories of hope, and what this college has done in participating in these kids' lives is helping tell their story, and a story that's going to end well instead of the way it may end without the help of these students here. There's a group of young people at this college that are so impressive that they get this at a very young age.
It was a beautiful evening to celebrate life and healing for children around the world. This has been Mackie Davis for GC360 News.
Now a celebration of a different kind. This one is called Not So Greek. It brings students together regardless of other affiliations on campus for a formal event. More than 200 students partied down. Among them, members of fraternities and sororities, students dressed in formal cocktail attire. There were t-shirt giveaways and refreshments along with entertainment from a DJ and a photo booth inside the house. It was a dry event, but lack of alcohol didn't stop the party. In fact, Georgia College police showed up twice because of complaints about noise. This is the 11th year that Not So Greek brought students together, a diverse group of students.
When we come back, something you may not know about Central State Hospital, once the largest state mental institution in the country. Stick around. Welcome back. You've probably heard about Central State Hospital, which at one time housed thousands of mental patients and was the backbone of the Milledgeville economy. Now, as officials work to close the facility, it looks more like a Halloween movie set. But there's much to be learned at Central State, as GC360's Kendall Thomason found out.
It seems like a ghost town. Buildings are decaying and the windows have long since blown out. Central State Hospital was once the largest mental institution in the United States. Central State opened in 1842 and at its peak housed more than 12,000 patients. If the walls could talk, oh, what stories they would tell. GC360 was able to walk through the hallways of the abandoned hospital buildings, meeting history face to face. These halls were home to all kinds of people, from Civil War veterans to the criminally insane. Old files and clothing left scattered on the floor amplify the eerie, untold stories hidden among the shadows. Much of Central State's history, good and bad, has been lost. But there is one place on campus where the walls do talk, the Central State Hospital Museum. Located in an old Victorian depot, historic artifacts from the hospital are displayed. The museum features personal items of patients and medical equipment used for treatment, some of which is shocking by today's standards. A patient room is staged, as it would have been inside of the hospital. Photographs are on display, illuminating the lives of those who worked and lived at Central State. Medical resources used by hospital staff are also available for viewing. The museum is not well known. However, it acts as a bridge from Central State's past to its present. Tours of Central State Hospital Museum can be arranged. Call 478-445-4128 if you want an up-close and personal encounter with Central State's eye-opening and sometimes disturbing history. Reporting for GC360, I'm Kendall Thomason.
Now to another story that digs deep into Milledgeville's history. We're going to hear from someone who knew African-American educator Sally Ellis Davis, who died in 1950. Miss Davis was a teacher and a principal at the Eddy School for half a century. Molly Randolph, the curator of the Governor's Mansion, is directing an oral history project to capture the voices of people who knew Sally Ellis Davis. We partnered with the Governor's Mansion to record the interviews. GC360's Abby Thompson reports.
The Sally Ellis Davis House in Milledgeville was a venue for a talk with a former student of Miss Davis. Naomi Brannon told an emotional story of her experience as a student in Milledgeville during the era of segregation and how one teacher challenged her to beat the odds.
When you saw a Caucasian or white person on the street, the black male supposed to get in the street. I didn't understand that during that time. And my father worked at, as I said before, at the Sanford building, and he would be carrying me to town, and when we would be on the sidewalk, and when the whites would come up the sidewalk, he would take my hand, and he would get in the road. And I would ask him several times, I was about 5 or 6 during that time, well, Dad, why did we have to get in the road and we do that? He said, just the times, honey, we just have to do that.
Mrs. Brannon spoke about her vivid memory of Miss Davis and the time she spent in her 4th grade class.
Now, Miss Davis was a stern teacher, very stern. When I looked at that swing out there when I walked up, I thought about it. She used to like to sit on the porch, and she would rent rooms to others, but in the classroom, she did not want to hear any noise at all. And she wanted you to know your work or get your work when you get there. It was different. As I told you before, I never saw her smile. And I think she had a reason for that. Because sometimes now some of the children, if you smile at them or whatever, they think that you're joking. But see, she didn't have, and I can understand that now since I'm in education.
Miss Davis was an inspiration to students like Miss Brannon because she believed that education could overcome any obstacle. Mrs. Brannon proved that to be true, and she became a teacher herself. She wanted to inspire students in her classroom like Miss Davis inspired her. Reporting for GC360, I'm Abby Thompson.
Back on campus, visiting Newell scholar Leon Johnson has been roaming around, promoting community and conversation through various art forms such as pop-up kitchens and artist talks. Johnson's latest showing at Blackbridge Hall is called Deposits, Vestigial Enclaves. Reporter Scott Carranza spoke with Johnson about his ideals and why students should start listening to the people around them.
Investigation. Experimentation gives me, I believe, a ticket to cross boundaries, and I believe thinking is form, so that's my first material. I believe conversations are creative systems, and that's a form of making. What I was doing in the gallery last night was listening to conversations as I was moving through, and that was fantastic and terrific. As people were sort of asking questions of each other and of themselves, that's a form for me.
It's all about fortress and landscape, seeing as they're aerial silhouetted views of 15th century fortresses, which serve as like symbols of strength, and taking them to fortress and body and giving that like security to the individual. Really just like playing off of the whole like strength of individuals combining to form a strong community.
If we can let go of the prejudices about what is good art, what is bad art, what is high art, what is low art, and liberate ourselves into the fabric of living an engaged life, engaging problems worth having, as opposed to strictly art problems or art issues, or how do I make better abstract paintings? I'd hate young practitioners or emerging practitioners to be trapped in a matrix set by the academy or art school.
Art Department Chair Will Fisher related to Johnson's worry about the rigid structure of art in a university setting.
Any kind of designated border or label, these things are all constructs that they're created for sort of smooth administrative operations. They can have a function, a positive function within the communities and so on, but often I think they can be real limitations and real hindrances.
Despite certain criticism, Johnson emphasized that students should make art now and not wait for another day. For Johnson, community and conversation are key to producing art worth making, and he hopes that future artists will start engaging life more avidly.
Make a priority to engage your culture, your community, your fellow citizens, not art ideas, art history, or ideas of media mastery. You know what I mean? And if you're lucky enough to sustain a healthy conversation, those conversations are going to start producing things. Problems, questions, queries, curiosities, investigations, and so they're worth taking care of.
When we come back, Nick and Joby give you an inside look at working out with Bobcat athletes.
Over 13 million people are affected by famine, war, and drought in the Horn of Africa.
When you hear about suffering on this scale, you feel powerless.
But there's hope, because saving lives doesn't take a lot.
It just takes a lot of us.
Text a donation of $10, but do more than donate. Forward the facts to everyone you know.
Forward from our site.
Forward on Facebook.
And forward on Twitter.
We are the relief.
Looking for these? You drive Buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to GC360. I'm Nick Landon.
And I'm Joby Peoples.
And next week marks the midway point for spring training for Major League Baseball and the Atlanta Braves, who have held an unimpressive 3-3-10 record this spring.
But you know, you've got to remember that this is just the spring, guys.
That's right. Yeah, no need to worry. The Braves are still feeling things out with a very young, very talented team. All is well.
However, some bad news for Braves fans. Likely opening day starter Chris Medlin left the game yesterday against the Mets, grabbing his throwing arm. Nothing has been released regarding the severity of his injury, so let's hope he's better by opening day on March 31st.
That's right. The Bobcats volleyball team is heading into a second season with high hopes. They've been gearing up, getting some help from GC professor Mike Martino, who also is co-owner of Bodyplex, one of Milledgeville's few commercial fitness centers. We attended a training session to bring you a closer look.
Having only started practicing together about a month before their inaugural season began last year, the Bobcats volleyball team is experiencing their first ever spring training sessions together, and head coach Gretchen Krumdick is already pleased with the results.
We got out of our comfort zone a little bit, and they've definitely been pushed a lot harder than they've ever been pushed. So this is a really positive step moving forward and carrying momentum into the next fall.
But she's not going it alone. Coach Krumdick enlisted the help of Georgia College kinesiology professor Mike Martino and his graduate assistants.
I think any time that you start your new training program, especially with a new team, that you call in all the experts, and so they're the perfect ones to go and ask about what, conditioning and what's the best way and to train them. And they're so raw, and so I wanted to make sure that we started off on the right foot.
The experts say the workout you're seeing right now is atypical for their day-to-day fitness regimen. Martino prefers to individualize the workouts as much as possible.
Yeah, that's kind of old school, where the whole team conditions together. In some cases we'll do that, but when we're in the weight room, we actually break them into smaller groups, and then we actually work on their individual weaknesses, because if we can make them better as individuals, they come together as a team better.
Martino trains athletes for nearly every sport at Georgia College. He says the ultimate goal for the volleyball players is to get them in better shape.
They have to play multiple matches in a row, so if you're in good aerobic condition, what will end up happening is you'll recover more in between points and in between games. The more fit you are, the better you'll recover.
The Bobcats volleyball team is looking to improve from last season, and acquiring the help of GC's finest trainers looks to be a step in the right direction.
It's not just the physical, it's some of the emotional and mental aspects of the game that they're getting sharper with because of this training that we're doing right now. So I can't wait to hit the court and see what they've got. I think we're going to surprise a lot of people this fall.
Well, that about wraps it up for sports this week. Stay tuned for entertainment, where our cameraman Hunter Smith shows us how to make some wine.
In 1977, in Johannesburg, South Africa, an 8-year-old boy picked up the game of golf from his father. By the age of 9, he was already outplaying him. The odds of this gentle lad winning the Junior World Golf Championships at the age of 14, 1 in 16 million. The odds of that same boy then making it to the US and European Pro Golf Tours, 1 in 7 million. The odds of the Big Easy winning the Open Championship once and the US Open Championship twice, 1 in 780 million. The odds of this professional golfer having a child diagnosed with autism, 1 in 88. Ernie Els encourages you to learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference.
I'm Jerry Osborne with everything you need to know about entertainment. One Georgia College professor's passion for music doesn't just stop at teaching. Professor Chris Inghauser, adjunct professor of double bass in the music department, is a member of 3 symphonies across the state. He also plays with a jazz band, and that's where reporter Caroline Classens caught up with him.
And then I started listening to Paul McCartney playing the bass.
and I thought that was cooler. So I started learning the bass lines that Paul McCartney had played on all the Beatles songs, and that turned me into a bass player. I always tell them, don't say no to anything. Even if you feel like, oh, it's not really your bag, you could find out that it's not your bag after you go. And if it doesn't work out and you don't like the music, you don't like the people, then you don't go back again. But it could always open doors up to new things.
You need a bottle of wine, so what do? You hit the grocery store or maybe stop in a liquor store. GC360's Hunter Smith has a different idea. He makes his own and is eager to talk about the tricks of the trade. GC360's Callie Wiley went to check out Hunter's home winery.
Hunter mixes fruits, enzymes, and yeast. He makes a wide variety of flavors in the comfort of his own home.
Well, in order to make wine in the state of Georgia, you have to be 21 years of age. You have to be the owner or a tenant of the household. You also can only make less than 200 gallons annually, which is pretty ridiculous because I've only made, I made in 1 year was like 95.
The process begins with a 5-gallon bucket and a concoction of bacteria-killing Campton tablets. Then comes an acid blend, tannin for zesty taste, nutrients, an energizer, 10 pounds of sugar, and 20 pounds of fruit. Hunter was inspired to make wine by a hometown legend called Swamp Man.
Because Swamp Man, swamp wine makes kind of sense. And then he's always made this wine for like 20 years, and he'll bring it to like a family gathering, and I was like, man, I would just love to have this all the time. So why not, you know?
On average, he produces 5 gallons at a time, with many of the blends coming from a recipe with a personal touch added. Making wine requires time-consuming steps. Things have to be mixed. Hunter says this takes 5 to 7 days. Then there's more fermenting, which takes 2 or 3 more weeks.
And it's safe for anybody that's 21 to drink.
Making wine is not just a hobby, it is an art that requires patience. Reporting for GC360, I'm Callie Wiley.
That's it for entertainment news this week, and I'll be heading to the beach this weekend for a spring break with Georgia College. Back to you, Justin and Taylor.
Thank you, Jerry. And you know what? Since next week is spring break, we will not have a show the following week, but stay tuned. The show comes back April 1st. And Taylor, I have to ask you, what are your plans for spring break?
I'm going to New York City. I'm so excited. I'm seeing Les Mis on Broadway, and I'm probably going to sob and get in trouble for being too loud.
Yeah, you don't sound excited at all about that. Jeez. You know, I'm just doing the beach thing. I'm a beach bum.
You go with friends,
if you
family?
ask me. I'm a big friends kind of guy. Yeah. Well, hey, that's about all the time we have this week for GC360. I'm Justin Peacock.
And I'm Taylor Weldon. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.